Welcome back, everybody, to episode 9 of the Anime Podcast. I am your co-host, Grenchler, and with me, as always,
is Whooper. I'm over here.
Yeah, he's on the left, I'm on the right. Although you can't tell because I sum everything down to mono, but that doesn't matter. Today, we did episodes 17 and 18 of Evangelion. We did episodes 13 and 14 of Space Dandy.
Yep.
We did 9 of Hellsing. We did 11 of Whales and Yome. And
Yome being Ancient Mage's Bride.
or Mahoutsukai no Yome, yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. And that's it because we dropped last tour 2 weeks ago because it
Lost a coin flip.
yeah.
But we went over that at the start of the last episode.
So we'll just gloss over that and we'll get right into a show this time, unless there's anything you
Yeah, I wanted to say a few words.
a couple words, okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, when I said a few words, that little spike there on the... So the reason that Grenchler was talking about mixing everything down to mono was because we were discussing our sound quality. And I referenced another anime podcast and said, listen to how these guys do it. And he had to explain to me that their sound was actually worse than ours and like more compressed and not EQ'd. And my, I guess my virgin ears didn't really understand audio.
I'm an audio engineer. I went to school for it very briefly, and I've done live sound for a long time. So it's, I have a lot of experience doing it, and I know what I think, at least objectively, sounds good to me.
What I think objectively sounds good to me.
Yes,
That's a convoluted statement if ever there was one.
it is. But and everything, how something sounds is subjective.
Right.
There is
rather than objective, as you said.
Shut up. There is a wrong way to do audio, but there are several correct ways.
I see.
Either way.
I brought that up just because I made that comment about the waveform looking big. That just freaks me out, but I, trust that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
The actual comments that I wanted to make before we got started with, one of our 5 shows were about Inuyashiki and Girls' Last Tour, both of which we have dropped along the way. And I finished them both in my quest to finish a whole bunch of 2017 anime, both for the blog that I write for and the Reddit Anime of the Year Awards, which they picked me to be a judge on. For
How many judges do they have?
Oh, it's a lot. It's not like that prestigious.
Okay.
And I'm only judging in one category of many, but
Which category?
it's best supporting character
Best supporting
in a drama.
character.
In a drama.
In a drama.
Yeah, and I'm contractual.
Wow, this is the fucking Oscars right here, man.
I'm contractually obligated not to reveal any more information than that. Sorry, plebs.
You just have to wait for
For like a month.
yeah.
So I have been watching a lot of anime because I need to catch up for, this reason and the other. And Inuyashiki I finished, Girls' Last Tour I finished. So I'm going to offer some super short impressions on the shows.
And I'll offer some commentary on your impressions.
Even though you haven't seen the end of either show.
Oh, well, I can make witty observations regardless.
Oh, I'll be the judge of whether they're witty. Or I guess our viewers will.
What viewers?
Our 3 viewers. Thanks.
Hey, guys.
Thanks, guys. Inuyashiki was bad. There was a ridiculous meteor that appeared out of nowhere to provide, some drama at the end and allow the main guy to kill himself, to sacrifice himself to try to alter its course and save the world, which didn't work. And then the main character had to blow himself up to alter the meteorite's course for real and save the world for real. And that was the end.
Wait, really?
Yeah, that was how it ended.
So they didn't join forces and do it at the same time. One of them tried, failed, and the other one just tried and succeeded for some reason.
They did join forces at the very, very end after a huge, really ugly looking
CG battle.
infested battle through a...
Looked like something out of Knights of Sidonia.
Oh, it looked worse than that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I remember the first time I watched Knights of Sidonia on Netflix, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, whenever it came out. The first battle you see of these just awkward looking mechs and a bunch of weird tentacle things just flying all over the place. And it was just like, this is awful.
Yeah, it was distracting for sure. Which is disappointing because Knights of Sidonia, from what I have heard, I have not read the manga, but apparently it's pretty good.
Hmm.
like good hard sci-fi. But you know, we've talked too much probably about CG and anime on this podcast so far. It's
Yeah.
just the way things are moving, and to get too, you know, like grumpy about it is not really productive or helpful. But that battle in particular in Inuyashiki was pretty gross, and the ending was not satisfying at all. So that show was pretty lame. And Girls Last Tour was actually finished quite well. Episode There was that pattern of them encountering a new person every three episodes. So we dropped it at 8, so we didn't get to see 9. In 9, they visit a factory, as they often do, because factories are like all that's left of the world. They visit a factory where there are a couple robots, one of whom is capable of speech. So that's the person they meet. And then in episode 10, they find a cat. Kind of. It's going to be hard for me to explain what I mean by kind of. They find a life form that closely resembles a cat, and is treated as a cat by the show. And that it becomes their companion for episodes 10 to 12.
And it's actually the spiritual manifestation of those giant, odd-looking blobs.
That's correct.
Wait, what?
That's right.
What?
Yeah. You're talking about those stone statues that always look to the right.
Yes.
Yeah. So those end up getting explained.
Oh.
And there's kind of like a resolution to the show a little bit.
I'm gonna have to finish it.
I would definitely say that, I mean, the 2 episodes that we watched where we decided this is not for us anymore, those I think are the 2 weakest episodes of the show. 9 was okay. 10 to 12 were, to me, pretty good. But I was also much more of a fan of the show than you were.
Yeah.
As we watched the first 8 episodes. I wouldn't say that you really need to go back and watch it. I don't think it's essential viewing, and I don't think that you'll really appreciate it that much. Not having appreciated it at the start. Like these episodes don't do anything too crazy or too different.
Right.
But I think it ended pretty well, and it'll probably end up on my top 10 list for the year.
Oh, that's good.
Though that's not to say that it's a great show. I don't think it is.
No, it just means that it was a weak year. Or week's season. Excuse me.
Lots of people think this was a good year for anime, and I don't begrudge them that opinion at all. Like, you know, maybe it was for them. For me, it really wasn't. But I also, there are very few shows that I like. Whether or not I would rewatch a show is kind of my biggest criteria, or like an indicator that I think a show is actually great.
Okay.
And I wouldn't. There are only like 4 shows that I could think of off the top of my head that I would be willing to rewatch from this year so far. I still have a few more to see. But
So on that list is Children of the Whales, correct?
absolutely, dude. You want to use that as a segue into talking about Children of the Whales?
Yeah, sure. Let's start them up with the
Rev up those fryers.
rev up those fryers.
Because I'm sure hungry for one whale burger.
So we learned a lot.
Yeah, we did learn a lot. Why don't you tell us about some of the things we learned in episode 11?
Okay, so it starts off, we're in homeland of the crazy murderer people.
Right. I forget what the name of their kingdom is, but they're the guy who's in charge of the Skelos.
Yeah.
He was like one of Orca's followers or subjects or whatever, one of his men. Orca being Likos' older brother.
Yes.
And it's him. Orca's the one who like starts off the episode with this big thing.
Yeah, and he gives a speech and manages to shift the blame to the guy with the blue hair who prodded Oni.
You're gonna need to be a little more specific when you're talking about an anime character with blue hair.
He actually is the only one with blue hair.
I mean, unless you think Oni has blue hair, which he kind of does.
That's closer to like navy.
I know who you're talking about, though. I don't know his name, but
yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, he does. Orca manages to shift the blame for the failure. They fail to exterminate everyone on Falena.
And it's like, hey, it's your fault the Noose died because you, rather than killing him, let him go Super Saiyan 4 and blow up the whole ship.
He being Oni.
Yes, he being Oni. That's correct.
Yeah. I actually wrote down all the little details about. I mean, Orca is not only trying to shift the blame at this council meeting or whatever. He also goes on a big like tirade about how the Earth was formed and the three like categories of humans that existed in the wake of like this healing rain that was spread over the planet or something. So I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read what I wrote.
Okay.
And you tell me whether you remember this happening or
I'm pretty sure I remember everything you're going to say. Just whether or not it's stuck because my brain thought it was pertinent information is completely different.
right. Yeah, this is definitely more of like a lore / mythology type of thing. It's not has nothing to do really with the characters.
I like lore and mythology in a lot of mediums in video games and television and books and stuff like that. But if I don't care about the world, I don't care about the lore. So
Or the people.
yeah,
in
and
the show.
and then it kind of just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Rather than me being able to tell you, how many thousands of years ago Argonians were created, in the Elder Scrolls universe. Anyways,
How many years ago were Argonians created in the Elder Scrolls universe?
it was like 2400 or something like that. When they first like attained sentience or something like that.
Well, now I know. Okay, I'm gonna read this information here.
Okay.
This is a recap for every one of you future listeners who has seen Children of the Whales, but of course forgot this information because why wouldn't you? So there was a purifying event, like a rain, some kind of rain that the gods sprinkled down on the earth. The rain of something that starts with a K. I don't remember.
Yeah, so the great flood that Jesus gave us.
Right. Yeah. I guess.
Symbolic to that, possibly.
Yeah, of course, dude. Yeah. Noah's Ark, that the DNA of that story is probably in thousands of stories that have been told since.
And considering that they're almost literally on arcs.
Oh, I actually didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, there are even rainbows in the show like all the time, right?
Yeah, and rainbows are a good sign, and they let things out during rainbows.
Right.
Like,
People out of jail.
you see a rainbow, you let a dove out to go find land.
No, that's not how it happened in the Bible. They let the dove out to find land. They landed, and then there was a rainbow. That was
Oh.
God's promise that he's never going to flood the earth again.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely a connection. Yeah, I can see now that this is Noah's Ark inspired. I hadn't really given too much thought to that. So there is a healing rain thing. And as thanks for the gods saving the earth from, evil forces or whatever that were there before, people start offering their hearts / emotions to the nooses, which represent the body of God, of the gods that saved them, whatever.
And they did this in order to
Gain power.
Not just that, but he said the original reason was to essentially selflessly give up your emotions that caused the need for there to be a healing rain. No more war, no more, emotional. Essentially, the only reason that we have conflict is because we have emotions.
That's what the show is saying. Yeah.
And their theory was we get rid of emotions when we stop all sorts of conflict.
Right.
So
then there are two people. There are two types of people. There are the angels, or people who are blessed by the angels, or whatever. No, their show actually calls them angels. So they're called the marked, and this is terminology we already had. And people who aren't angels, they're not blessed by the noose or whatever. They're unmarked. But there's a third type of person called a demon, and they have like super powers or whatever. And it's not really explained how the daemons came to be. Maybe that'll be for the last episode or something. Or maybe they're just freaks of nature, like whatever.
It's a kind of something like in a lot of mythology that has to do with angels and gods. There's generally a race. They look exactly like everyone else, and they're called Nephilim, which are the offspring of angels and demons.
Okay.
Which is maybe a possibility. I don't know.
Maybe. So there are daemons, and then Orca. Again, this is Lycos' older brother, who is heading the campaign.
Commander of the Skelos.
No, that the commander of the Skelos was the blue-haired dude who got the blame pinned on him.
Really?
Yeah, the Skelos is just one ship. It's not their head ship.
Right. Well, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, Orca's like behind the scenes. He's bigger than just that one.
It was
guy.
Orca's mission, but the other guy was commanding the ship.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
So Orca's plan is he wants to control the daemons so that they can, it's like, so if you control the daemons, you control the world because they're so powerful. He wants to be like the supreme leader. He wants his people to be the supreme leaders of the universe.
Because they're at war with or they're in a conflict with the other people.
Right. The people who've just landed on Falena recently.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a
Their
much
kingdom.
There's, as you speculated like a long time ago when we first started watching the show, there is a much bigger, series of kingdoms and continents, and it's bigger than just
we saw a map this episode.
Yes, we did. Yeah, and everyone was confused. Like, wait a minute, I don't get it. So you sailed from there to there? What does that even mean? So yeah, Orca wants to control the daemons, and take over the world. Whatever. He just wants to be the supreme leader because
Supreme Leader Snoke.
Because he why does he want to do this? Oh yeah, a second reign is coming, like a second reign of Kokomo cryptocurrency, something that starts with a K. Not that cryptocurrency starts with a K, but like there's going to be another flood, I guess, or another healing rain, or another, like there's going to be another world-altering event, and he wants to be prepared. Like he wants to have control of the demons and protect the arc of their city or country or whatever.
Right.
So that's been his motivation this entire time. That's what all the events that have unfolded so far. This has been behind all of that. How do you feel about all this?
It just seems like a big knowledge dump with one episode left.
Yeah.
And unless something like mind-blowing happens in the next episode, I don't know if there was a reason for it to happen.
I think this was supposed to be the mind-blowing stuff.
I think this was a time fill. They were just like, "Oh, we got 2 episodes left. What do we do?" Monologue.
Oh no, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, but I really do feel like this was at the heart of their like design for the series was, there are angels and there are regular people, the marked and unmarked, and then there are the demons. Those are the 3 categories of people that sprung up in the wake of, like, the gods
saving the world.
Yeah, like, don't you think that was probably in their notes? Like the people who created this series, I don't think they just invented this now. I think they just waited too long to pull the trigger on the reveal.
Yeah, that's probably a better way of saying it than how I said it.
I mean, it definitely kind of felt like a time fill because,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't really give 2 poops
yeah.
about any of it, but it wasn't great. And I mean, what else is going on?
Oh yeah, we learned why the
marked have such short lifespans.
Yeah, because rather than the noose feeding on emotions, it feeds on their lifespan.
Yeah, of the people with thymia.
And Chakra's like, I had a sinking suspicion, but now I'm going to go into an emotional rampage.
Yeah. I don't know about rampage. Doesn't he just get like kind of
teary-eyed and run away?
Yeah, and then you see him later with like laying down with his arm over his eyes, like, I'm so sad.
Right. I think he's done that like 9 times now.
Yeah, he probably has.
That's how he sleeps.
What a great main character. What a great show. Yeah, so we did learn that. He overhears Lycos telling the new guy about that little piece of information. And it occurred to me, like, that's been the whole point of Lycos' character. Ever since she is the younger brother of the guy who's trying to destroy them or whatever. But
she's there for information.
Yeah, she hasn't really played a huge role, and she hasn't. There's no real character arc for her. Like, she's gaining emotions. When you say that sentence, you kind of think, oh wow, that's a huge deal. Someone who was previously emotionless learning to access that part of themselves. But this show is not that, subtle about it.
No, and she only really displays emotions like once or twice. Other than that, she's just a stalwart stone wall like she was before.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem to me that she's kind of a different person now, but not really.
Not as much.
I don't know. As you said, she kind of like teases information and reveals, and then doesn't deliver. So I don't really think too much of her as a character, I guess. But at least she spilled the beans and Chakra overheard her, so now we know.
Yep. Here we go.
Yeah, as you said, there is, like, we have only 2 episodes left. You know, we gotta.
Is it 13 or 12 episodes?
It's 12 episodes.
Yes, we have 1 left.
Well, yeah, but like at the start of this episode, we've only got 2 left. We got to get all the secrets out there. Must have been the thought process.
Right.
And now we do only have 1 left. And there was that uprising at the end of these episodes. You remember the 2 twins who we talked about recently? Wasn't that strange?
Here are my notes.
Yeah.
We're the Edgelord twins. We kill birds and start revolutions. Join us, Senpai Oni.
Right. Yeah, Oni did swoop it. Like they declared themselves the leaders, the new leaders of the Mud Whale. And because they're the marked, right? And they accuse the unmarked of kind of using them as shields during the war that they were just embroiled in, or the battles or whatever.
Sure.
And they say, oh, they were in hiding.
Right, they were in hiding. We were the only people doing the fighting.
Yeah, and only one unmarked, the elder, the worst character that the show has produced thus far.
Falls.
The guy who gets cut in half and is still alive and delivers
kills.
his little soliloquy.
He's like, I am now a good character. Praise be.
What was I even talking about, dude?
It's so hard to keep up.
Yeah, so they're declaring themselves the leaders because they are tired of being under the thumb of the unmarked. At least that's how they see it. But I actually...
The unmarked are unfair.
The elders are in there.
Standing on their sand castles.
So, yeah, I did make a note about that scene at the very end. I kind of like the idea that they're rising up because they're the marked, and they feel as though the unmarked, the system that's been set up, where the people with thymia are controlled and told not to use their powers for violence
by the people with thymia.
No, yeah. So if you really think about it, if you think about what they're saying, even though they're like silly characters who were introduced for 1 episode earlier out of nowhere, obviously as a justification, like, you know how they say, what is it that they say? They don't need everyone's approval to become the leaders, and we've just been sticking to the corners of the Mud Whale because we couldn't clear the uncertainty between us. Those are obviously excuses for why they haven't been more central to the story, like on the writers' parts. Oh yeah, we've just been lurking in the shadows over here in the corner of the show where no one cares about us because reasons.
Just don't worry about it. Just go with it. Everything will be fine.
Right. But I do like the idea that that it's a conflict between the marked and the unmarked. And that to me makes for a much better story. Like
than everything else that's been going on.
Pretty much, yeah. The conflict being between, like, the whole thing with Lycos, like I was talking about before, she's not a very good character. And they go and find her, and she's like, you know, she's magical, and she makes you interested in what's going on in the show because, oh, is she human? She doesn't have emotions or whatever. But it seems to me that you could tell a much better story about, I mean, essentially like the X-Men, right? Magneto, people with powers rising up and trying to suppress people without powers, without thymia, and considering them like second class and taking power into their own hands. That to me would be like a much cooler, better story. And these twins could have been the characters who drove it. But instead they're relegated to like the second to last episode when...
Join the Equalists.
Right. Korra, yeah. Kind of a similar thing, yeah.
Yep.
Not that storyline in Korra was great or anything.
No.
But I feel like an emerging conflict between the marked and unmarked could have been what the show was about from the start. And you still have invaders who are trying to, mess with the Mud Whale and kill everybody or whatever. There can still be a war, so that the marked have to fight.
But that way it gives the marked's argument teeth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're all just living in peace and harmony, cutting down sugarcane and eating it and singing Kumbaya, then there's no reason, hey, we should rise up and revolt. It's been a while. I'm kind of bored.
We need a reason for there to be a show.
This would be great.
Yeah, there does need to be conflict, but I feel like that could have been the conflict at the heart of this show. Of course, then you're changing the entire story. You characters are going to have to, their roles are going to shift
drastically.
Yeah, but I mean, one of my big complaints when we first started reviewing the show was like, why am I watching this particular story? Like, why this version of it? And I just,
why this version of Noah's Ark?
Pretty much, I guess, yeah. That's it from me for the show. You got anything else?
There was.
Oh, they sing to move the.
Yep,
the island turtle.
They sing to move the island turtle, and the giant wings come out. That was actually something that the twins mentioned. They said we don't know where the mud whale's going. We could be heading right towards the enemy,
right?
For all we know.
Yeah, they don't trust the people, the prince or the king or whoever. That guy with the goofy hair.
Yeah,
they don't trust him, and I guess that's something that we'll find out more about next week on the last episode. It's going to be real sad to see it go.
Yeah, there was also the what is it? Commander of the Skelos. He talked to the commander of a different
the commander of the Skelos was the blue-haired dude.
Okay, well the other guy.
You're talking about Orca.
Orca, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Leader of the Crusade.
He wants a new ship, so he has a little conversation with a guy with a tattoo on his face.
Yeah, who sounds like a robot.
He did. That was weird.
Yeah, I made a
I wonder if that was a production mistake. Or if
it's intended.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he had like this odd tattoo on his forehead as well.
Maybe his throat has been like their civilization's more advanced than the mud whales.
Yeah, because you can see that there's like metal and stuff like that on their mud whale.
Right. So maybe there's been some kind of operation. Like maybe his throat was destroyed and he
gave it to the noose.
Maybe that's what he sacrificed to the noose, man. Yeah.
Yep. Just got rid of his vocal cords.
Yeah, there's so much emotion in those things.
Can be.
I'm about ready to move on to the next show.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's been 15 minutes.
A while.
Yeah.
Let's do Ava. We did that last time.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it second this time.
Oh boy.
Ooh. We got some.
We talked for way too long about Ava last time, so let's keep it a little shorter.
That's going to be difficult with everything that happened in these 2 episodes.
What did happen in these 2 episodes?
Let's check my notes.
Go ahead and do that.
Start of 17, Unit 04, and a second division of Nerve in the United States literally disappears.
Right.
From a bad reaction
to the S2 engine.
The S2 engine
that they're experimenting with.
And I remember they mentioned the Sea of Durak again. That's possible that it just disappeared into that.
Right. Ritsuko speculates that the way that it disappeared may have been another Sea of Durak.
Right.
Which is what Shinji was stuck in episode 16, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, so it disappears. Did you catch that the satellite feed that they had of the Nerve HQ in America disappearing? It said Nevada, US.
Yeah.
It's probably Area 51.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I thought that maybe you wouldn't have noticed that and I could be all cool.
No, I mean Area 51 is
super famous.
It is super famous, but it's also an actual military base.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So it would make sense, I guess, that Nerve 2 would be there.
Sure.
Maybe that's the military base.
I guess so. Maybe it's actually real.
Yeah, maybe Evangelion is totally real and the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's a real prophecy about angels and stuff.
Man, then what was the second impact? If that happened in 2000...
So let's say the Big Bang was the first impact?
Yeah.
What was the second?
The second impact, what was that
I don't know what it was, but maybe like the Black Plague was a result of it. Don't you think that's probably one of like whatever caused the Ice Age? That would be the second impact.
Yeah, I guess. Anyways, let's see what else. We got a lot more on the dummy plugs in episode 17.
Right.
We learned essentially what they do, what they're for.
It's Ray's like personality and I guess just her data that's been digitized.
And essentially, it's kind of like
it's an autopilot type of thing.
Yeah, it's an autopilot or like a Maggie sort of system where it's, you know, partially organic, I would assume. I don't think it's all like circuitry in there.
No, I think it is all circuitry because, I mean, there's a scene where when they first talk about the dummy plug in episode 17, Ritsuko and Gendo are looking at Rei in the tube. And we were talking about this beforehand, and you pointed out, what did you point out?
I don't remember.
Okay. I do. You said that the reason, like maybe the reason that Rei is in that tube is because that's how they're creating the dummy plug. Like she's hooked up to all that equipment as a means of transferring her consciousness or her data or whatever into the dummy plug. That's something you brought up.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. I lost my train of thought. Damn it.
You're talking about
the dummy plug
and Rei.
Stuff. Yeah. Okay, so Ritsuko and Gendo are standing there. They're looking at Rei. They're talking about the dummy plug. And Ritsuko says it's impossible to fully digitize someone's like personality or their soul or whatever. So to me, the dummy plug is totally digital, but it's just not a perfect copy.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas the Magi are like essentially a perfect copy of Ritsuko's mother, but her brain is literally, her brain's literally in the thing.
It's a fusion of man and machine,
right?
Rather than a machine imitation of man,
right? And that's what the dummy plug would be. The latter, which you just described.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, the dummy plug is, I mean, the Eva needs a pilot. There needs to be like some sort of connection between the consciousness that's in the robot, because we know that it is partially organic, or I guess I should say cyborg, because they're not robots.
Right.
There needs to be a cooperation between the pilot and whatever consciousness is in the Evas. So the dummy plug is a way of putting, you know, a mock human consciousness in the Eva, allowing it to function without human input. Or, you know, someone like
without a pilot, yeah. Essentially, it's just a remote controlled robot at that point.
It's not even controlled remotely, right? Because the dummy plug is in the robot. So you wouldn't say it was controlled remotely.
It's just a
it's a glorified autopilot, kind of.
Yeah. Especially because it can be implemented, you know, while the driver is still inside of it.
Yeah, as we see later
in 18.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that in a bit.
If it even mattered.
Ooh.
Yeah, there is a bit of talk about the dummy plug. It's very important. But there was some new information coming out of episode 17, but on the whole, I found it to be a very character-focused and very human episode.
Yes,
there's a lot about the kids in the school, and even this was the biggest spotlight that we've ever gotten on the class president, Hikari.
Yeah,
who's good friends with Asuka.
Yes,
and that was actually my favorite part of episode 17 was her attempt to get closer to Toji, who's the hick who punched Shinji in episode 3 or something, and who always wears that tracksuit.
Yep.
She obviously has a crush on him, and she, you know, approaches him and she's like, "I have 2 sisters, and I always make food for them." And
do you want me to make some food for you?
Well, he says, he says, like, if there's any extra, give it to me.
Yeah. So if you have an extra, I'll eat your food. Sure.
Yeah. So he like lets her get her foot in the door. Although at that point he's already, I think, gotten the news. The big news, which is
that he's the 4th child.
Yes, he's the 4th child. And everybody finds out before Shinji.
Yep. Shinji finds out at the exact wrong time.
Yeah. Which is Misato's fault.
Absolutely.
Because she won't tell him. But
I don't think his knowledge of the fact that he was piloting 03, which is in episode 18, would have had any bearing on what he did during that episode. I think the exact same thing would have happened.
Oh yeah, because I mean he refuses to destroy the Eva because he speculates that there's a person inside.
And my thought was, why don't you just pull the entry plug out and then destroy it?
Yeah. I think
like you're into 01. 01's supposed to be like the Jesus one.
Right.
For which we don't know why yet.
But we do know that Gendo and Ritsuko are both obsessed with Unit 01, like in particular.
Yeah, which is mentioned a lot of times, but we don't know why yet.
Right. That's something Misato's trying to find out.
Because episode we're still getting ahead of ourselves.
What were you going to say? We can just...
Oh, no, I was going to say we don't know
why, and because in episode
Oh no, I meant to say Unit 00
Ray's unit.
has some problems.
Right.
Like it's harder to control, or it's not as powerful for some reason. It has problems syncing with anybody except Ray.
Has problem syncing with Ray too.
Yeah. But Unit 01 doesn't seem to have those problems.
Right. Yeah. Unit 01 is the one that sometimes moves by itself. And escaped from the Sea of Dirac and like protected Shinji when stuff was going to fall on him, and sometimes goes berserk. It's definitely the most conscious of the Evas. It's the most autonomous.
Or it's the most sentient.
It's the most mysterious.
Well, it's all because they're, based on angels.
Yeah. Right, which we also learned last week. So a lot of information flying at us. But as we said, episode 17 is, there's a lot of characters bouncing off one another.
I'm just amazed Asuka has any friends.
Yeah.
That's the real takeaway for me this episode.
What, that Hikari is her friend?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's nice that she has a friend like that. And I think she's very popular too. I mean, remember when she first started going to school, there were love letters in her locker. People were taking photos of her.
Yeah.
All the boys
selling photos of her.
Yeah. That's a real common trope in anime, especially if you go back and watch like 80 stuff from the 80s and the 90s.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was probably common behavior in Japanese schools, if I had to guess, because it's so prevalent in anime, like older school-based anime.
That just blows my mind.
Don't you think that kind of stuff probably happened here in America too? When cameras were like newer?
I guess, and I never saw anything like that happening. I guess now we have, a different way of doing that, where like your girlfriend sends you nudes or something and you show all your friends on your phone, which is probably worse. But
yeah, there's more potential for like, invasive behavior now that we have computers in our pockets.
Yeah. We have calculators. You'll never have calculators with you at all times.
But the snapping of pictures is, it's plenty invasive on its own. It's just 1990s version of what we're doing now, I guess.
Yeah, essentially.
Although this show's set in 2015, so I guess some things never change.
Yeah, like using Polaroid cameras.
Yep. What else? I'm looking at my notes right over here.
Seal is furious. The
Right.
Dead Sea Scrolls are mentioned.
Well, what else about the kids? That's I think that was the main focus of episode 17.
The only thing else that pertains to the kids that I wrote down was that remember they mentioned installation like 707, which is the school that Shinji goes to, and something's weird about that school.
Okay, I didn't catch that. Something is weird about that school. And did we learn what it was in this episode? I know what it is, having seen the show before.
I can tell you that something's off because every single time they're in class, the teacher is always talking about the second impact.
Well, I think that's humor on the show's part. Like, he's old, he's kind of doddering. He just talks about what happened when he was like a young man. And it's also a way of communicating information about the second impact. But so that tendency of the professor or the teacher to always talk about the same thing, that's not part of what makes the school so odd. But there is something about it that's different.
You find out later.
Kind of. Again, we're coming up on the part of Evangelion where a lot of knowledge is about to, like, a lot of truth bombs are about to get dropped on us. And not all of them are totally
obvious.
Yeah. There's a better word that I wanted to use, but it's escaping me right now. I mean, some of the stuff is going to be in the background. Some of it is not even in the show. You got to go like play the PS2 game.
And just go to the wiki and just start reading.
Pretty much. But yeah, something's up with the school for sure. Yeah. So I like that you picked up on that. Apart from that, the rest of the cool stuff about episode 17 was just like when they go to Ray's apartment to give her the printouts and Shinji starts cleaning up. Yeah, and Toji's like, I refuse to clean.
It's just like, I ain't gonna do
I'm a man.
this.
And then Shinji says to him, oh, but Misato hates guys like that. And he's like, he's torn,
He's
he
like,
can't
I'm
decide
still
what
not
to
gonna do it.
Yeah. Well, he's really tempted.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously very attracted to Misato. Just little stuff like that. And Rei noticing like that her opinion of Shinji is changing. Like she says thank you to him and
she's like, I've never said thank you to anybody.
Yeah, not even Gendo. So she is slowly becoming more recognizably human, I think.
And she mentions to Toji, or Toji says to Rei on the roof of the school, you like him, don't you?
What? Oh, he said. I guess he does say that. Yeah, I think he phrases it a little differently.
He does phrase it a little differently. I think he says like, you care about him.
Yeah, and then Rei is like, huh?
Ray's
do
like,
I?
I do, and he's like, yeah, you do.
Yeah, she's
Or he says, and he's like,
she's not totally with it, I guess, in regards to human relationships.
Well, she's not totally with it in regards to
anything.
Yeah.
So episode
the robot is learning.
Episode 18. Oh boy.
Oh baby.
Before we started the podcast, we were just talking about the episode. And obviously the big thing that happens. I mean, why don't you go ahead and tell the story of how you watched this episode?
Okay, so I started watching it. I drive my friend to work all the time. And I started watching it thinking we were going to leave later. And he's like, hey, I want to leave early so that I can get some food before I ride. And he's like, hey, can we go at this time? And I was like, okay, sure. And so that time happened to be exactly at the first commercial break, which is when Unit 3 explodes in that giant cross, and I pause it and have to leave. So
you're driving your friend to work,
and I'm just thinking like, what happened? Are half the characters dead? You know, is Unit 3 going to destroy the rest of the world because it's new and super powerful? You know, I'm thinking all these crazy stuff, and then nope, everyone survives.
Yeah, and
everyone's fine.
And you said, well, that's not true.
Well, relatively speaking, fine. You said not dead.
Yeah, your opinion, at least the way you expressed it, was that it didn't even like matter that Unit 03 had blown up because no one had died. That's at least my paraphrasing of what you said.
No, and that's I think that's fairly accurate because it's this like, oh my gosh, there's an angel on or in, or Unit 03 is an angel. It's never really explained.
Yeah, not totally. It's been like corrupted by an angel or something.
Something like that.
It's Gendo like conflates the two.
Yeah.
He says
like,
it is an angel.
It is an angel. At this
Obviously,
point.
he's saying that because he wants it to be destroyed. But yeah, you could say it's an angel. I'm not too hung up on the technicalities.
It blows up. It's like 10 feet from Misato when it detonates.
I don't know about 10 feet, dude.
And there's this massive crater that must be 100 feet wide that looks like it goes to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
And she's got a little bandage around her head.
Well, she is seriously injured, I think. Because she's talking to Kaji when she wakes up. This is at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And he says, Ritsuko just had minor injuries. She got off, much better than you.
I guess maybe she has like a concussion or something like that.
I don't know. I think I can't really remember how injured she is.
Well, if the next episode, if she's perfectly fine, then
that's just anime though, or that's TV,
television in general. Yeah, you can't just be like, hey, we injured one of our characters and they're handicapped for the rest of the show.
I do, and when you phrase it that way, like, does it even matter that it blew up? I do think. I mean, now
it was very dramatic, but.
Yeah, it was dramatic.
When you see something like that, you instantly think everybody's dead.
Right.
It's like a nuke going off. And you're just thinking, well, everyone's standing right next to the bomb. They have to be dead.
Yeah.
And no one's dead.
I guess it doesn't really make sense that Misato lived,
or that any of them lived.
That Misato does kind of need to survive because of her function as a character. She's, the audience proxy.
The Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
What?
The Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
I've seen Game of Thrones. What are you talking about, though?
She's the commander of the Avas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Okay. Sure. How was I okay, you know what? Forget it. I do think that it's a cop-out that Toji lives. Because obviously, as the fourth child, and he was suddenly, like, thrust into that role. And then he's in
Hey, you're the fourth child. Training day. Let's go. I
pretty
mean,
much.
Shinji was worse than that. It was like, hey, you're the second child. Combat time.
No,
Instant.
isn't Shinji the third child? I think
But
we
yeah,
made.
he
I
is,
think
he
we
is
made
actually.
this.
You see on the screen in episode either 18 or 17. You see a screen where it shows all the pilots and which child they are on it. And I saw that Shinji was the third, and I was like, wait, isn't he the second?
No,
And
we
it turns
actually
out
made.
I was wrong.
We made that mistake, I think, when we were first talking about the children, whatever. Who's the
Sure.
first, second, third? Like a long time ago in an early
Ray is
episode.
the first.
Ray is the first. Asuka is the second, because remember, she was already like experienced at piloting the Eva when they met her.
Right.
Shinji, so she was already doing her own thing in Germany when the show started, before we had met her. So Shinji is the third child, despite him like
Being introduced second.
yeah, despite first.
Well, first.
Yeah. I was gonna say something else, but it was gonna be a huge spoiler, so I stopped myself.
Okay.
Yeah, so Toji survives after taking out Asuka and Rei in Eva 03.
Well, I mean, he didn't do it. The angel did.
Right. And
Suplex.
Shinji, of course, refuses to
He's like, I'm
take
not
down
gonna-
Eva 03 because he thinks that there's what if there's another kid in there, someone my age.
Right.
And little does he know, it's Toji, which
Yeah.
he finds out only afterwards. So this is where the dummy plug comes in.
Yes.
Because they have to stop Unit 03. It's going berserk. They deploy all the Evas. Shinji refuses to cooperate with his dad's wishes. And his dad is like...
It's just like, well, autopilot, and it rips it to pieces.
Yeah, it goes completely... Eva 01 goes completely insane. I wonder... I don't know if we were ever given a shot of, like, Shinji's point of view as the attack was going on.
No.
So we don't know how much he really saw. He probably saw everything, right? Does he see out of the...
We know it goes red, like in the cockpit when the dummy plug turns on. Like the whole thing just turns red.
So his view of the outside world, like the screens, also went pure red?
Yes.
Okay. So from that, I think
When
we can
his
probably assume that he didn't see what was going on. That would be even more horrific, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because then you would see the giant hand crush the entry plug.
Yeah, you know what? I want to rewatch that scene because maybe like, I'm just trying to think about how it was shot, or it's not shot, how it was drawn.
Right, how was it directed?
I want to see if there was ever like a cut between Shinji's face, like his eyes looking at the camera, I guess, and a shot of the Eva crushing the entry plug.
Pretty sure there's not.
Okay. Yeah.
Because every other time that his unit goes berserk, he like blacks out.
Yeah, it's true.
Although this time he's not like mentally connected to it.
Right. The dummy plug's doing all the work. He's just along for the ride. Dude,
Yeah.
I kind of wish that the screen didn't go red and that he had seen everything. That would be more like gruesome, And this is supposed to be like a huge mental, traumatic event.
I saw the next week on Evangelion at the end of it. It's like Shinji quits.
Didn't it look? Did you notice how
there's nobody in any of the frames? It's all just the backgrounds with no characters on top of it.
Remember we talked a few weeks ago about how the production cycle for Eva was a complete nightmare. This is kind of evidence of that.
Yeah.
The preview for the next episode, like the next episode's not done.
They hadn't even finished drawing the characters into the scenes yet.
Yeah.
Or at least hadn't finished the layering at that point.
Right. We probably need to give me your closing thoughts on Eva, I guess. If you had to talk about one more thing, what would it be? Because we can't go on for too long.
Let's see. The last note I had was all main characters survived the massive crater-creating explosion with minor injuries. Plot armor for days.
Yeah, but we've already talked about that. Do you have anything else?
I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything.
The episode
really
ends with
happened.
Shinji screaming because he starts to process what exactly happened. That like he was in the robot or the cyborg.
He got in the robot.
He did. He sure did, dude.
And the robot doesn't like him. Well, no, I guess it kind of does.
It protects him.
Which that's still not explained either.
I am actually not totally sure whether the show explains that, but there is a very sound explanation for it. I don't know whether you'll get it from the show. You might be able to infer it, though. Actually, no, you definitely will, for sure. But we have 8 more episodes to go. At some point in there, you're going to learn why the robot can act on its own and why it tends to protect Shinji. Blah 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 blah. Okay, there's actually a lot more stuff we could talk about, but I'm only going to mention one more thing super quick, and then we can move on.
Okay.
You were actually talking about how it's a miracle that Asuka has friends.
Yeah.
And early on in this episode, when it's still kind of more about the kids, and the show does that because it needs to be focused on the school and focused on Toji to establish him as like a tragic figure going off to die, essentially.
Right.
But it also, spends some time with the other kids. And one of we know that the class president has a crush on him. There's a scene where Asuka is like reassuring her, don't worry, like Rei is not into Toji.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And then later, when Asuka goes home, Kaji is there. Misato is left, right, to go supervise Eva 03. So Kaji's staying with them. And she obviously has a big crush on Kaji. And Shinji is there, and he doesn't know who the 4th child is. So there's all this potential for Asuka to like act out and like hang all over Kaji or lord her knowledge over Shinji. But instead, she is actually upset because she knows that her friend's crush is about to become an Eva pilot.
Yeah.
So that thought like stops her from acting like a brat. She's more concerned about
her friend.
The anguish that she knows her friend is probably going to be going through soon.
Very soon.
Because the boy that she likes is
destined to save the world.
Yeah,
or crafted to save the world. We don't know yet.
Even Asuka, who loves piloting Eva, or who sees it as a way of proving herself, even she understands how terrible it is.
Yeah. Yeah, because she saw Unito 1 go berserk in that other episode, and she was
she was like, "This is what I'm piloting."
By it, yeah.
So I thought it was really really cool. I think that a lot of the character work that this show does is quite good. So I thought it was cool.
Quite good.
Yeah, I thought it was cool that she in that scene, having had those conversations with Hikari, and empathizing with her, that her behavior was a little different at home because of that. So I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was cool.
Okay.
Well, we just did an old one, so I guess it falls to
Mahoutsukai.
Yeah, I guess that's the next one.
Ancient Magus' Bride.
Yeah, we're still in Dragontown, England.
Still head padding.
Yeah, that's still happening. Are they in England? Where are they? Ireland, right?
Ireland.
It is. The dragon place is in Ireland, right? Did we learn that in like episode 3 or something?
I think so.
Yeah, they're still there, and we're still getting backstory on Ainsworth, Elias, whatever.
Elias.
I took almost no notes for this episode.
I took useless notes.
I accidentally clicked something. Are we good?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. You took useless notes, huh?
Yeah. Let's see. My first note is fucking triggered head pat. My second note is lol skiing face plant.
Okay, I don't think you have to read them all. I'm getting the gist of your notes. Yeah, all of them are like this.
Yeah.
What is the thing at the end about we're as emotionally advanced? Oh, right. Their relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that. The scene at the end with like the water mirror or whatever that's created by Lindell's magic, which allows Chise and Elias to communicate and see each other despite being hundreds of miles apart or whatever. That's a cool scene in terms of concept. Just the ability to communicate magically via water is kind of cool. But I don't really feel their relationship, which I guess by saying that I'm just retreading old ground from past podcast episodes.
Right, but the show has done nothing to give us a reason to think that their relationship would be anything but completely unstable.
Yeah, I agree. However, I think that there are probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people across the world watching this show who are totally invested in it. You know what I mean?
Well, that doesn't mean that they're not subjectively wrong.
Yeah. Just because they're correct doesn't mean they're right.
That's true.
Yeah, I definitely I agree totally that their relationship would be a train wreck. But it's this show is also not trying to establish the kind of relationship that would turn into a train wreck, right? It's not a high school show about hormonal teenagers. It's it's like a magical little slice of life with some romance sprinkled on top. So I can
And
kind of
some
and some dragons.
Yep, some dragons and some
Somewhat.
gods of the forest and some vine beast.
Yeah, I think it's more about the magic than it is about the romance. For most of its airtime so far, I would say it's been the case.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair assessment.
So I mean, it's because the show is not trying to tell the like boy meets girl type of story that I can tolerate its romance, such as it is. But yeah, I also agree that they're like that scene, even though it was cool with the water mirror, was not like special to me because they're like I don't really care if they get together or if they don't. Or I mean, I actually I do care. I don't think they should.
The house feels cold.
Right, yeah, the house feels cold even though well, I kind of like that little individual line of dialogue, like the house feels cold even though I've got the stove on. That sounds like kind of romantic and kind of
Yeah.
it's a little, add some authenticity to what he's saying. It's a little detail. Yeah, but yeah,
Head pats.
There's definitely some head patting going on. And oh boy. Oh yeah, remember when the dragons they see Chise, all the little dragons?
Yeah.
Well, one of them has grown bigger, right? The one that came to pick her up.
Yes.
So I guess these are new baby dragons.
Yes.
Because they grow so fast. So they see her, and they come charging at her and they knock her into the water. Do you remember what Lyndall says after she gets knocked into the water?
She gets knocked into the water a lot.
Yeah, I appreciated that because this is like the third or fourth time that we've gotten a scene of her in the water slowly drifting down to the bottom. How symbolic.
This show is
she's drowning in her feelings.
Somewhat self-aware.
Yeah. So I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that was probably the mangaka who included that line in the source material. But I'm glad it made it into the show because it really feels necessary because they keep going back to that well, or that lake.
Although this time it was much different rather than the floating, dying, contemplating monologue. There's this cool water dragon, and she comes out of the water, and she's like,
"Forgot about that.
That was so cool." Rather than
wait, that was her reaction when she came out of the water. That was cool?
It was basically it's like I saw this really cool creature underwater. Yeah,
right.
That was her reaction.
Yeah.
I thought the like when she's floating underwater. Like her hair, like all spreads out, like everyone's hair does underwater. But I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, show looks good for sure, in general. But I will say that I think that's more based on art and character design and backgrounds than it is the show's sense of
movement.
Yeah, There's not a lot of really grade A animation in this show, and I mean maybe that's because it doesn't really call for it. It's not super action oriented, but I mean the problem still persists in some scenes. What else went on this week? Oh yeah, she made her wand. I guess that's the really other. I mean, we learned a little bit about Elias. He freaks people out. He used to eat people, maybe.
Yep. He's nice. He's a shadow.
Yeah.
Or he turns into a shadow. No one knows why yet.
Well, we've seen him hide in other people's shadows, like in the present.
And he doesn't have...
He hides in Chise's shadow.
Yeah. And he doesn't have, like the mental capacity or at least emotionally mental capacity of a, normal human.
What are you talking about? In the flashback, you mean?
Yeah, in the flashback.
I think that
picks up a rabbit and he's like...
Right, and Lyndall,
what do I do with this?
Lyndall is, he kind of explains it as him being a fast learner, but kind of seeing everything from the outside. And I think that's just a comment on his lack of humanity, or perhaps his missing memory. He's like a child. He is still learning.
Well, it is 24 24
episodes. It is 24 episodes.
Yeah, so it has a long time to develop his backstory.
Yeah, but well, we know about his backstory now.
No, but we're missing hundreds of years.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we still don't know exactly like what he is.
Yeah,
and all that. I'm sure that'll be slowly doled out to us. I mean, if past anime that we've seen are anything to go by, we'll probably learn in episode 22 or 23 what it is that he is.
There'll just be that giant monologue of everything that's about to happen.
I mean, I don't think this show is the same as Children of the Whales. I don't think it's the same kind of show.
I don't think so either. I just thought it was funny. I was also going to say, it's like, we'll finally learn the last key piece of information in episode 920. Thanks, One Piece.
Is that how many episodes there are of One Piece?
I think it's 918 to 920 right now.
Huh. Okay. You're not into One Piece, are you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I just saw an episode number and I was like, how is anyone still watching this?
Dude, it's like the biggest
I know it is.
Japanese franchise in the world.
I don't think I would have an attention span for 900 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, neither would I. I'm not a big shonen guy.
Because it's every
Although
week.
I used to be.
It's every week and it just doesn't stop. So that means if it comes out every week, there's 52 weeks in a year, and there are 900 episodes. It's been running for
20 years-ish. Which it has. I think the anime debuted in 99, so we're coming up on 20 years.
That's just
that's right.
Unreal.
Dude, that's not unreal. There's a precedent for that, you know? Dragon Ball.
The Simpsons doesn't have that many episodes, man.
The Simpsons has been running for how many years? Is it 30 at this point?
Yeah.
Wait, is it? No, that's not right.
But it's not.
Isn't it like 25 or something?
Simpsons only has like 400 or 500 episodes.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's definitely not the same as One Piece. Well, that's because the production cycle is different, right?
Yeah.
Like One Piece probably airs 51 episodes a year. You know, it takes like a week off for Golden Week or something, which is a holiday in Japan. Around New Year's.
Why are we talking about One Piece? This is about
I don't know.
It's about mages.
But,
anyways, sorry, that was my fault.
Yeah, I'll drop what I was going to say because it's a digression. The only other thing that I really want to comment on from this episode was the fact that Chise gets to make her wand, which I'm still excited about because I just like all the magical stuff. Like, you remember when Lyndall lays out
and he's talking about like what each of the different kinds of woods is good for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that's really cool. Like,
yeah,
it's not really good storytelling or anything, but I just like those little details.
Yeah, I think that's interesting stuff for me too. That's, you know, I care a little bit more about the characters in this show. So like when lore is explained, I pay more attention to it. Like Yule logs are for longevity, and ash is used for dealing with curses and hexes. And
I'm impressed. That was the last show that I watched. Wait, no, that was Children of the Whales. But I watched Mage's Bride probably only like 4 hours ago, and I don't remember that stuff. I definitely didn't write it down. I didn't want to pause the show and be like, "You is used for dealing with," you know, and then play and go to the next screen and type all that.
There was one point in Evangelion, just a small backtrack, where there's so many conversations going on that almost half the screen was filled with subtitles, and I just had to pause and read all of them, and then resume, and pause again, and read all of them, and resume, because so many conversations were happening.
It was probably one of the scenes where they were, some kind of alarm was going off.
It was when either four disappeared or three exploded, and everyone started talking at once.
Yeah, there's someone on the PA system
showed up, and I was just like, I have to pause and read this.
Right. Yeah, it's cool that she's making the wand. It's weird that her hair is in it. That's weird.
I think I can kind of see it. I mean, in Harry Potter at least, you know, every wand had a core, and the core was
but it wasn't
almost
human hair.
No,
and it wasn't the wielder's.
It was
human
like
hair.
the feather of. Well, wouldn't it make more sense?
It was like a hair from a unicorn tail or dragon heartstring,
phoenix feather. Yeah, it was pieces of magical creatures.
Right. But I guess the idea is that humans are also magical creatures. I mean, Chise definitely is. As a Sleighbega, she's
super magical.
She's real magical. So it kind of makes sense, but I don't know. I just would have preferred. It's just a small nitpick, like, you know, and it's not even necessarily valid. I just would have preferred more dragon stuff in the wand, or more like, a phoenix or whatever.
Yeah.
Or what about her dog? What about hair from her dog, her familiar? I don't know.
I think it just makes more sense because it would tie the wand to the owner.
Yeah, I mean,
and it would create a connection between them, which to me makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have any real issue with it, I guess. I just thought it was odd.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
You're darn right.
Other than that, nothing too much.
Okay, so next is what? What show's next?
Hellsing?
Is it?
I guess.
Okay.
We've only got Hellsing and Dandy left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Hellsing. Burp. Episode 9.
Episode 9.
So we've only got one more to go after this. This one was action-packed, I guess.
Yeah.
But also filled with flashbacks that weren't totally properly contextualized. Some of them we still don't totally understand.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's okay because I'm assuming that the final episode is going to go into more detail about the characters' backstories.
I think
particularly Alucard's and what's his face, Walter.
Yeah.
Here's I have some questions actually.
Sure.
About the episode. You remember Luke Valentine?
Yes.
The guy who just shows up in the middle of Alucard's demon spawn or whatever of all the people who he's ever consumed.
Yeah.
Who have we seen Luke Valentine before in the show?
Yes.
Okay, I've forgotten him. So
the assault on Hellsing in episode 2. The two vampires that go
Luke
in.
Valentine was one of them?
Yeah, Luke Valentine was the guy who went down into the basement to fight Alucard and was just like, I can take on this guy, and Alucard destroys him.
With the dog.
Yeah,
right?
So he eats him with the dog.
Right. Okay, so that's why
he comes out when the dog is slain, because the essentially magical barrier of the dog's stomach or internals or whatever is sliced clean open.
Okay, I see.
So
I
I
had forgotten who Luke
I'm
Valentine
alive.
was.
Why am I alive?
Was that like a Johnny Depp voice? Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Thanks for that, because I completely forgot about him. All right. What about the form that Alucard adopts at the very end? Like it seems to me that he took on the form of a woman who was present in some of the, like, we got some of those sepia toned flashbacks.
Yep.
From Walter's past. Like just still images of him like fighting the Nazis, right? When he was a kid, like maybe when he was younger. And that woman was was in those flashbacks. So do we know who she is yet, or is that something that's going to be explained in the next episode?
I don't think we know who she is, but I think we can infer that she was probably somebody close to him.
I wonder if that's his mom, and his mom was one of the Nazis.
Maybe. Or maybe it was his wife.
No, but he was a kid in these flashbacks.
Well, different times.
It was like the 1940s.
Different times,
I guess. I'm going with it's his mom.
Yeah, that's possible.
And that his mom was a Nazi, and that like he had a bad relationship with her or whatever, and so he took it out on the poor innocent Nazis. All right, so those were my two big questions, I think. I have plenty more, but those were the two where I was like, maybe Grenchler will have an answer for this.
Okay.
All right, so you're the Hellsing guy. What'd you think of this installment?
Well, we got...
How'd you feel about it? Was it good? Was it bad?
Yeah, I liked it. There's some great action set pieces. There was some interesting, developments as far as... the character in the story. Let's see. Where are my notes on Hellsing? I think
where are my Hellsing notes?
They're all the way at the top. I think I watched it. I actually watched Dandy 13, Hellsing 9, Dandy 14.
That's not the order.
I had to wait for season 2 to download. I didn't have it yet.
Oh, okay. Your Hellsing notes are pretty sparse, man.
Yeah, they are. We learn that Alucard is 500 years old.
We already knew that.
Oh, we knew exactly his age, 523 years?
No, not that number, but we already knew he was 500 years old.
Oh, well, we learned exactly, 523 years.
Who does he say that to? Like,
Alexander.
Right. No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because Alexander's been around that long too.
Okay, no, that's definitely wrong. I think I don't want to do another whole Whooper is wrong edit.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that his little thing to Alexander is 50 something years ago. Oh God, I don't know which it is. I don't think Alexander's that old, man.
Alexander's a regenerator, though. He's not entirely human. He's been around a long time.
I don't. Okay, sure.
I think that he's crazy old.
Okay.
Because if you notice, like in all the flashbacks where he's teaching kids, he looks exactly the same. I don't think he's aged in 500 years.
Yeah, but maybe they just didn't have a new character design for him.
No, I really think that he's like 500 years old as well.
Okay.
And that he's been like Iscariot's champion, which is why he's the best at fighting all that stuff. Like way better than everyone else because he's been, he's not entirely human
for so long.
And he's been doing it for so long that he's super good at it.
Maybe. We can look that up after this. But in regards to the 500 years thing, we see a flashback, right, to when Alucard was...
Yeah, he was going to be executed.
Right. And that I think was 500 years ago.
Yeah.
Or was it? Because the Major was alive. Did you notice that?
Yes.
In those flashbacks. Which I think were 500 years ago.
Honestly, sometimes it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it is. I feel like
we know that he gets like he's about to get decapitated with an axe, and he like drinks something or someone's
He drinks
blood.
some blood, which is laying on the floor of the execution platform,
and that's what turns him into a vampire in the first place.
I guess
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So the Count was alive in that flashback. So if that was, and I think he even makes reference to the fact when he's talking to Walter at the end, and he's like, "We've all been through what you're going through now." Like me, Alexander. Oh, you know what? I guess he did say that Alexander had altered himself somehow and that he was old. He says to Walter, "Me, Alexander, even the Major, we've all gone through what you're going through now." Because Walter has turned himself into a vampire somehow, using some like bargain bin method or something.
Right, which is why he's reverse aging at a rapid rate.
Right.
And falling apart.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the Major is super old. See, at first I thought that his whole motivation as a character was he was, from the 1940s. He was part of the Third Reich. And so he was just like, this is revenge. I just want to watch the world burn because we lost before. Now I just want to destroy everything.
But that's obviously not his intention.
Yeah, well, we know now, and we knew as early as like last episode that he has a personal grudge against Alucard, and he wants to destroy him. Like this is all so that Alucard will go final form, and he'll finally be able to kill him.
Yeah.
But I think that flashback that we got was to 500 years ago when Alucard, who probably didn't have that name at that point, was a count, and he had like armies at his command, and he compelled them to fight using like religious extremism, like fight for your god.
Yeah, because he goes on, he basically like gives a monologue about that.
Yeah,
while they're going through and putting people on pikes and things like that.
Right. That's another thing that lends credence to the theory that it was 500 years ago. Because the way they were fighting, like the uniforms they had on and all that stuff.
And the weapons they're using.
It smacks of, like middle-age warfare.
Yeah. Or the Crusades.
So he was like referred to as a mad king. Alucard was.
Yeah, he was like a lord or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember they said, when he unleashed like all of those,
they're all his subjects that he like ate.
It's like I can't believe that you would have done that. I think he was a vampire then.
When
he was being executed and when he was doing that religious charge.
You think he was a vampire then, and that him licking the blood didn't turn him into a vampire, but it just gave him more power?
It gave him like an extra life because he has as many lives as he has drank.
Right, that's a philosophy.
So if he only had one left and he drinks that one extra one right before his head gets cut off, he comes back.
I guess it's probably something along those lines. Either he got some kind of power up from it, or it gave him more vitality so he could survive being beheaded or whatever.
I think he might have been a vampire then.
Did you catch that Integra's dad, Arthur, was talking about Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Was he just mentioning Nosferatu as another vampire who, similarly to Alucard, was like a desperate soul or whatever? Because he was characterizing all these monsters and all these half demons and stuff as people who are looking for death, and that they're not supposed to be feared; they should be pitied, which I thought was kind of neat. But
I think he was referring specifically to the vampire locked in the basement.
no, but when he mentioned Nosferatu by name, did you get the impression that that was a separate entity, or is there like one big king vampire who has different names over time, and Alucard is like the newest incarnation, and that they're the same person or thing? Because that threw me a little bit.
I thought he was referring to Alucard, just not by name.
Okay,
Just
well,
by a
Nosferatu is a vampire,
right. Nosferatu.
Yeah, well, that's the SpongeBob thing.
Yeah,
but
flicking the lights on and off.
I don't know how many SpongeBob references we've made on this podcast so far.
Too many.
No, you can never have enough.
That's that.
I was making sure we had hit our quota.
Okay.
But Nosferatu is not just from SpongeBob. He's like a legendary vampire in fiction. So I'm wondering,
as opposed to in real life.
Well,
the legendary vampire.
Yeah. Hey, man.
You never know.
Anime's real, and so are vampires. Oh, there was more child rape in this episode.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure actually that it was Walter.
I thought the same thing, but it wasn't.
It was Alucard.
I'm pretty sure it was Alucard, because as Alucard or someone is talking about like a younger Alucard, that's when the flashback happens. I mean, they do look the same. I think it's probably just a case of anime same face, where two characters look totally identical because they have the same hair. But I think it was Alucard.
I initially thought it was Alucard, and then I changed my mind to thinking that it was
Walter.
And
I did the same.
And now I have it's one of the two.
Well, I did the same, but Walter is not one of these super old dudes like Alucard the Major or Alexander.
No, he's a normal, like, I have aged, I am 60.
Right. But the flashback that we see is from more than 60 years ago. I'm pretty sure that the guy who's assaulting Alucard, isn't he wearing like a turban or something?
No, he's wearing like priest's robes. That's why my first note is Catholicism at its best.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that was referring to.
Okay. I'm pretty sure, and this is another thing we can look up. So we have two things to look up now, and hopefully we don't forget them. But I'm pretty sure it was Alucard. Although it did cross my mind that it might be Walter, just because they look so similar. All right. What else?
Walter the sleeper agent.
Yeah. What was the deal with the whole conversation that went on like outside of London between the guy with the top hat and the military guy? They both referred to themselves as like members of the Round Table.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this is some kind of organization that protects Britain or whatever. They were talking about
the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but they call themselves that because they're modern protectors of London or whatever.
Right.
England. So they talk about having secured the Queen and all that stuff. And
that they have like strike forces in place to take back most of the area,
right,
except for London itself, and they're considering nuking London.
Yes, but the big thing that I took from their conversation was their whole thing about Walter. Like, why was it again that Walter is against Hellsing, or that he's this whole time he's hated Hellsing? He wants to fight Alucard, right?
Yeah.
That's his motivation.
Alucard, and as you saw, or as you mentioned earlier, when Alucard shows up in the visage of a woman, that might be that Alucard killed his mom.
Oh.
And this whole time he's just been playing and waiting for the proper time to be able to kill essentially the incarnation of death.
So you think that Walter perhaps Walter is committed to Hellsing's cause of killing like supernatural stuff or whatever, and he is loyal to Integra, but he also holds some hatred for Alucard because Alucard may have, killed his mother or done him some wrong, or just because he's a demon and Walter like hates that kind of stuff.
They also mentioned though that Walter was the butler when Integra was given command essentially of Hellsing after her father died, and that he was mysteriously absent the day that someone broke in to try to kill her.
Yeah, her uncle, like Richard or something.
And that Alucard was locked in the basement, just locked away and, essentially just to be forgotten about. And Integra just happens to run in there. And and Alucard obviously saves her.
Yeah.
Quite spectacularly.
We saw that in the beginning of the first episode, I think.
Yep.
But okay, here's what I didn't totally understand. How is it that these guys are speculating that Walter's been pulling the strings somehow and that he orchestrated the break-in? I mean, I understand him being absent and allowing Richard the opportunity to like pursue Integra. But how could Walter have known that Integra would go to the basement and free Alucard?
He didn't. That's why it was he tried to stop that from happening.
Oh, I see. So you think that he actually is against Hellsing and against Integra, and he wanted her to die?
Yes.
But I don't think that's what those dudes were saying. Weren't they saying that Walter is like a super mastermind who wanted Integra to free Alucard? I thought that was... Dude, this is another thing where I got to take much more detailed notes, I guess, is the lesson that I'm learning right now.
Yeah.
But I also, like, when I'm watching anime, I don't want to just be pausing every 3 seconds.
Right.
Maybe it'd be better to just take screen caps. Like, have my fingers constantly on Control S, which is in VLC, that's how you take screen caps. And I could take screen caps with the text in there. And those would serve as, like, notes.
You'd have a lot of screen caps.
I know, yeah. I kind of just want to watch an episode as I'm watching it.
Yeah. It's difficult to discuss something, especially that's Hellsing,
so dense.
Hellsing's long, and there was
it is long for sure.
There was a lot of information in this episode. There was a lot of fighting, but there was also the downtime. There was a little bit of grandstanding, where everyone's just like hair flowing in the wind, but there was also a lot of dialogue.
Yeah,
a lot of big information dump.
Yep, a lot of flashbacks and a lot of stuff.
Yep.
All right. Well, in the spirit of rebelling against info dumps and monologues and things, because they're boring most of the time. What about the action?
I thought it was cool. The fight between Alucard and Walter.
Yes, I thought was cool.
Was definitely the centerpiece. Of this episode, because you had initially the end of the fight between
Alexander and
Alucard,
in which I was super disappointed
that Alucard won.
No, in the visual presentation of the fight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if you think about it, Alucard's hair was super long, and so when he was fighting, his hair was everywhere. And Alexander had turned into that like vine thorn monster thing.
Yeah.
So the vines were everywhere. And as they were fighting, it was really just hair everywhere, vines everywhere, obscuring the background. So you couldn't tell the space in which they were fighting. So it was just a lot of like stabbing motions from Alucard, like hitting away the vines and stuff. There wasn't like a real sense of geography to what was going on.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So then eventually he just like gets close enough to him, puts his hand through his chest, and squishes his heart.
Yeah. That's what the note one punch is for, because he just punches straight through him and then just squeezes his heart and blows it up.
Yeah, but like I don't know, I just didn't feel as though it was very satisfying, because it wasn't like a big, super interesting or creative fight. It didn't make use of the environment like the Walter versus Alucard fight did, where they were like Alucard was getting dragged along the sides of buildings, and
Well, I think that just has to do with, Walter's trying to physically destroy Alucard, whereas
so was Alexander.
Alexander was trying to,
Destroy Alucard. That's his whole mission.
yeah, but in a different way.
How so?
Well, essentially, oh my gosh, I can't even speak today.
You say that on literally every podcast.
Yeah, I honestly think I have.
Well, just
anyways.
think.
Yeah. So
what was different about their two approaches? To me, they're both just trying to kill Alucard. They're trying to destroy him.
well, if you notice, Walter kept like just cutting off his arms over and over and over and over, and eventually he won't be able to regenerate anymore.
Right.
Like he'll reach the limits of his power.
Right.
And Alexander wasn't doing that. He wasn't constantly like trying to rip off all of his arms and everything like that.
But wouldn't you say he was trying to destroy him?
He was trying to just constrict him entirely, trying to keep him still rather than flinging him all over the place and trying to destroy him.
Okay.
I just think it was two different ways that they were trying to fight. They were fighting with essentially the same weapon. But they were, thorns slow you down, and you get bogged in them and you don't move very much.
Okay.
Like in real life, you run through a thorn bush, you slow way down,
right,
because it hurts.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's a different kind of fight because the weapons are different.
Yeah.
They are both, like
Stringing,
the wires and the thorns. They're kind of similar in the fact that they're like long and thin, and you have control over them. But I guess they would be two different kind of fights.
Also,
still, I didn't.
Saris shows up with the
but
Alexander fight.
just for a short time.
Yep.
All right, we're closing in on a minute 30 here.
Yeah, a minute 30. Wow, this is the longest minute 30 of my life.
Longest?
Yeah, because it's an hour and 30.
That's did I say a minute and 30?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Okay, Dandy. Let's just get there.
Yeah, let's do some Dandy.
Let's do it like super fast. All right, which episode? So we watched 13 and then 14. I also labeled it that way.
Yeah.
It's episode 1 of the second season. So which one did you like better?
Of the two?
Yeah. So episode 13 is the one that's QT centered. Episode 14 is the one with the million dandies.
They were both good, but for different reasons.
Okay, but which did you like better?
Which did I like better? I think
if one had to be erased from history right now and you were only...
I would probably keep 14.
Okay, I'm the opposite.
Yeah, you would keep 13.
Yeah.
I like both of them because they were good for different reasons.
Yeah, they were
14
very different.
was just really absurdist. And it was all over the place. It was goofy. It was weird.
I don't think there's too much to say about episode 13, actually. It was a pretty straightforward,
still a better love story than Twilight.
Yeah, it was a love story and a straightforward one, pretty much.
Yeah, I really liked the music. It was this 80s retro synth kind of stuff going on in the background. I like that.
When they go to Dream Island, the junk place, and there's the DJ set.
Yep.
The big party.
Well, also before that, when QT's just walking around walking around town and the shops and everything like that, there's just this cool 80s kind of just synth music going on in the background.
Okay, I'll have to
revisit
that.
I thought it was cool.
The music in the show is just
really good.
It's ace, man.
Ace.
But we can talk mostly about episode 14 because that is the more interesting one, probably from a visual perspective as well as from I guess a storytelling perspective, specifically the implications of this kind of cosmic string stuff and alternate universes and realities.
Well, you know what this is from, or science-wise.
String theory?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Literally.
Yeah. But speaking about Dandy specifically, I think we've gotten hints before that this kind of stuff exists. Like the cosmic string. Like in episode 1, do you remember when they warp into the middle of nowhere and there's a cosmic string just floating? And QT's like, make sure you don't pull that because we could be thrown into another dimension. And then Dandy, of course, pulls the string.
Yep.
That's how they get to that planet where all the aliens are fighting and stuff. in episode 1, what I know was a sequence you really liked.
Yeah.
So, so this stuff has been going on in Dandy. And here's my theory. You know how sometimes they die? Those are just
different dimensions.
Those are just parallel universes.
So what is this, Rick and Morty?
This was before Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I know it was.
Um,
Not conceptually, because as a concept, Rick and Morty existed for like a decade.
Okay.
Fun trivia.
Cool.
Anyways. Now that is highly possible.
But there have been I don't know how detailed my notes were here, but there have been instances where they've died, and yet the show continues. So rather than that just being a goofy Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing, I think that, and I really doubt that I'm the first person to ever express this, but I think that they're just alternate versions of Dandy, QT, and Meowth in other universes. They look the same.
Meowth.
Did I say Meowth?
Yeah.
All right.
Meowth, that's right.
And I think there have been other hints at like them jumping between universes and stuff. And I'm not organized enough to have listed them all. But I feel like if I went back and watched the first season, I can make a pretty good case for this having been foreshadowed for a long time.
As well as I remember the Gogol Empire mentions that there's something special about Dandy.
Yeah, there you go. That's another instance of that. They're like obsessed with Dandy. They can't catch him because he keeps warping. And we know that it's dumb luck. But they don't know that, and they seem to regard him as like, kind of miraculous or whatever, like special.
They probably have another basis for, like, why would they be interested in him in the first place?
That's a good question.
And maybe he can travel through dimensions.
I mean, we've literally seen him do it a million times now because we just watched episode 14.
Yeah.
So let's talk about episode 14. It was crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy cool.
What were some of the parodies? Because they keep, pulling these cosmic strings, and they keep going into different dimensions and encountering other versions of themselves.
Yes.
So Dandy, QT, and Meowth, they keep discovering different versions of the crew. So what were some of the parodies and the references that showed up in these alternate versions? There were tons. What'd you catch?
Level 3 Dandy was Michael Jackson and Goku.
Right.
Or very Dragon Ball Z.
He kept saying like "Shamount," and he definitely flew on the cloud like Goku does in the opening to Dragon Ball.
What is it?
Attack on Titan.
Yeah, there was an Attack on Titan reference. There was
Naruto, I think.
Yeah, there was one where they were all like ninjas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gintama, which is I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's a super, super long running Japanese Shonen Jump adaptation. It's like a comedy that occasionally becomes a serious thing. It's hard to explain.
I think we've actually mentioned it before. We saw it on Mal or something. I'm like, hey, what's that?
I think I've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
Gundam.
Yep.
But
they literally say mobile suit pilots.
Yes. But
so that was a direct reference.
There's already been a bunch of Gundam references in this show.
Yeah, the giant head, and then the other literal Gundam that just shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were tons. I'm sure there were many, many more. I, despite having watched a lot of anime, am not like super into Japanese culture. So a lot of the really recognizable ones that they probably put in there, I was unable to detect.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit of a miss. I definitely would have missed them unless they were clear homages to Western media, which is one.
I'm sure there were some of those that we missed too. Honestly,
there were. I remember
there were like a million dandies.
Yeah, there were a million dandies. I remember pausing and trying to look over them and try to remember things. I should have written them down. Obviously, you can see I got 2 lines in for 14 because I was just so enthralled with what was going on.
Yeah,
I just didn't want to stop and start typing.
Yeah, it's annoying taking notes. I mean, the best thing to do would probably be to watch it once first. Just watch it and then watch it again, taking notes. But ain't nobody got time for that.
That's such a time sink.
Yep.
It'd be super useful for like Ava and Helsing now.
Yeah, Helsing was this was definitely the the most complicated the show has been. And it's probably going to be, well, I mean, I feel like episode 10 of Ava will probably be, or Hellsing will be, all your questions answered. You know, we're going to get the full skinny.
Wrap it up, and then everyone gets nuked. That's my prediction.
I kind of want to move past Andy like super fast so that we can get this in, you know, in a reasonable amount of time.
Sure.
Rankings. You got your phone?
You sure you didn't want to mention anything about 13? Just
I mean, we, oh my God. You liked episode 14 better. I like 13.
Yeah.
I like the episode. I think it's great. But it is rather simple.
I liked it. You know, I thought it was cool.
It's
and
cute.
at that exact moment, a Pionium bolt.
Yeah.
And no one knows for sure whether it was the Pionium expanding the size of QT or if it was love. It
but
was
I
probably
like to think it was love.
I like to think it was love.
Right. Okay. You got your phone ready? You got your notes?
Yeah, but well, I
got
have it memorized.
Okay.
But
What'd you put last?
We're whalers in the sand.
Every week with that joke, dude.
It's
every week.
It was an old Flash cartoon. They kept hitting a button in their ship that said, "We're whalers on the moon."
I don't remember. I watched a lot of old Flash cartoons back when I was in high school.
You didn't watch these ones. These were like random Metroid related.
Okay. Yeah.
Just anyways. Yeah.
I'm thinking like Homestar Runner, stuff on Newgrounds.
This is like obscure stuff on Newgrounds that I'm referencing.
All right, I put Mahoutsukai no Yome last.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was. I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was the worst of. Dude, you're gonna be surprised at my rankings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. I'm totally edgy and contrarian. Yome's last.
Okay. So then, what's fourth?
Hellsing.
Magus.
Okay. So that gets last place. I put Whales third.
Dandy.
Dude, I was actually okay with this episode of Children of the Whales, even though like I feel like the show has done a poor job of selling itself up until this point. I think the last couple have been, well, I mean, I don't know.
I have a feeling that you think these episodes are okay just because the bar is so low.
Maybe, but I also like the show's getting around to explaining itself now.
Yeah, it's done with its random character deaths and goofy stuff that it was doing during the fighting, and now it's getting around to explaining why it's happening in the first place.
Yeah.
So essentially what happened is there's a war, and now they're explaining it rather than explaining it before or during it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pattern for anime is that they withhold all the information until the end. Like they string you along for a long time.
And you know who we have to thank for that?
Who?
Ava.
Oh, it was going on long before then, man. I mean, you could make that argument, I'm sure, but Ava itself has its own set of influences.
Right.
I just think it's kind of interesting, the whole story that he tells about there being three types of humans. Like there's the demons and the marked and the unmarked, and the rain is gonna fall and blah blah blah. Like, you know, if that belonged to another show that I cared more about, and maybe it happened a little earlier in the proceedings, I might be like, oh, okay, cool. So this is some kind of like there's like a prophecy that's gonna go on, and I don't know. I thought it was all right.
Okay.
And I mean, Hellsing's fourth for me just because it's just not my. It's not my thing.
It's not your slice of pie.
Guess not.
Cup of tea.
So I put Dandy second and Ava first.
I had Hellsing second and Ava first.
Oh, you put Ava first, even though nobody died.
Well, honest, that's kind of a minor gripe. The rest of everything was really cool.
Yeah.
Really entertaining. Lots of
brand new information.
Yeah,
lots of fun moments.
Like that's something that is consistently keeping Ava at a high score for me, is just this slow trickle of this information that you want to know. Like you have all these crazy harebrained ideas in your mind, and you're slowly learning more about them, and you're finding out if you're right or if you're completely off base.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, it's pacing how frequently it gives you new information really well.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of obsess over Ava's depiction of like psychologically broken characters or whatever, and it does have that, and it'll get even deeper into that as we approach the end. But I do think that it's good at what you just described as well. The show's probably underrated, if anything, when it comes to that slow drip feed of backstory and lore and stuff. It is good at that. We just passed a minute and 40. Is this the longest one ever?
No. Wait, actually, yes, because the one that was a minute and 40, I spliced so that it stopped instantly at that point.
All right, well, new record.
Records are made to be broken.
How many more times are we going to break this record? Hopefully not too many.
Hopefully never.
Yeah, we gotta get better about that. We just have to watch more carefully so that we have fewer questions. Speaking of questions,
Or watch less complicated shows.
yeah, but that's pretty boring, honestly. Then we don't really have anything to talk about. Like if you watch some cute girl
Keijo?
BS,
That show that's
that's the one about butt fighting.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could watch that. We could watch that. We're not going to watch that. Please, let's not watch that.
No, let's not watch that.
Let's instead end the podcast and try to recall what questions we had about Hellsing and see if we can get to the bottom of them.
Okay.
So I guess, are we signing off?
I think we're signing off.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
See ya.